Only yesterday, you heard me say that it was the greatest day for the electric car movement with Tesla releasing the $35,000 version finally of the Model 3 sedan. And yet, as more and more news started to come out about the Model S, about the stores, about the profitability, and all hell broke loose, and people started getting really confused and irritated, and the stock went down. And now people are wondering, is Tesla in chaos? What are they doing? So let's tackle that. But luckily, today is Friday, and so it's time for Plugged In with Tom Moloughney, who is the contributor for InsideEVs.com and an electric car expert. He's going to be here in just a second to give his opinion on what's going on with Tesla. All of this is coming up next. Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric. Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news, and you will be up to date on all of that if you just go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there, and that way you will also become a part of this community. All right, Tom, as we're trying to do a regular thing on Fridays now, Tom will be a guest, and this is essentially his segment. I'll be just asking questions, and he's always a great guest, very knowledgeable guy. You probably seen him and his comments and his columns on InsideEVs.com. So he's here to help me sort this kind of a mess that kind of got created out of this amazing milestone that Tesla had. So let's bring him in. Before that, of course, I want to quickly remind you guys that this video and this channel is sponsored by Avanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. There's a discount code in the description of this video. Go ahead and grab it so you can save yourselves a few bucks. All right, so I'm gonna bring Tom in now, and it looks like usually, he gets to pick a topic since this is essentially his segment, but I guess this week, Tom, looks like it got picked for us, huh?
Yeah, all week long I was thinking, are we going to talk about Volvo and the Polestar 2, maybe sprinkle in a little bit about Honda with the introduction of that really cool little city car EV concept. But then, Elon drops the bomb on us yesterday. And of course, we have to digest a little of what's going on in Tesla world.
Right, and we can still talk about Polestar 2 since they were aiming at Model 3. But let's digest everything that happened, right? Because I gotta tell you, when I saw the announcement, and I made even the video, yesterday, I thought personally, still do think that this is one of the biggest days, if not the biggest day, in the electric car movement. Well, do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, in some ways, the $35,000 Model 3 has arrived. And, that was something that people have been waiting for how many years now? At least 3 years. So, it's something that is finally come. It's something that Elon promised. Elon had to deliver. I think a lot of his detractors have been critical of him for many reasons, but one of the reasons that he didn't fulfill his promise, he didn't bring the $35,000 long range, quote unquote, affordable electric car to mass market. And it's kind of a bait and switch. People are playing 60, 70,000 for Model 3s. It's not what they promised. So he kind of had to do this at some point. I think, for a little while, people thought it might be a little bit later, but he stepped up and put it out there now. Of course, there's the usual Musk twist to things. The standard battery pack that goes 220 miles, that's the $35,000 car. It's actually 36.2 with destination and docks, but you pay for that in all cars, even though the Tesla's is a little bit higher than what you pay with most vehicles. But then he threw in this standard range plus for only $3,000 more. And it gives you a couple of goodies on the interior. And
actually, I think it's I think it's $2,000 more.
I thought it was $38,000.
I thought 3,000 extra is for the first level of self-driving. I think the plus version is 37,000.
Okay, well, you could be right.
Yeah.
There's been so much
I know.
to digest that, I was looking at, because of not only the Model 3, now they also introduced a bunch of changes to the Model S pricing and structure. So I was looking at so many different vehicles. You could be right. I thought I read it as 38,000. I'm not,
Well,
saying
I
you're
have it
wrong.
right here.
Probably 37.
So I have
So,
it right here.
okay.
So I think if we look at it, yeah, it looks like the difference is only for the standard range plus is only $2,000. So yeah,
Okay.
I think that's it. I think it's $3,000 for the first level of autopilot,
Right.
which kind of had like a bunch of stuff taken away, moved to the no longer advanced name, but the full self-driving. But yeah, listen,
Yeah.
I am just as confused as well. Not anymore because I had to prepare for the next video, which is about Model S and Model X pricing. But I mean, I guess here's my point. I thought, and everybody thought, that this day would be the biggest day in Tesla history, in electric car history, which I think still is. But yet here we are making a video saying it's Tesla in chaos. So
Yeah.
why don't you go over everything that happened, good and bad, I guess. I think it's mainly good. But and tell us, why do you think this is a kind of a chaotic situation, and what are the sort of positives and negatives here?
So, I don't know if I go as far as say chaos, but what I would say is, he couldn't just come out and introduce the $35,000 Model 3 and let it be and let everybody celebrate. They had to make all these changes at the same time to not only the Model 3, but the Model S, and then announce that they're doing away with their stores. I'm not sure if they're doing away with all the stores or just some of the stores. And it just kind of created a little bit of, go back to the word chaos, where you kind of have so much information to absorb that it took away from the fact that, hooray, we've got a $35,000 Model 3 now. Even as far as you mentioned, the autopilot and the fact that that's changed. Yeah, the price came down for the first level, but now some of the options came out. And even with the Model 3 now, there's 6 different versions, I guess. The standard version, the standard range plus, the premium interior mid-range, the premium interior long range. Then we have the dual motor premium interior long range and the dual motor premium interior performance. So there's 6 different models. The range goes from 220 miles to I think 325 miles. So, is that too many Model 3s? Does he need 6 different variations of the Model 3? I wouldn't think so, but it seems that they made the standard range plus so attractive that I think people are going to find it hard to just go for the $35,000 Model 3. And, the people that were really holding out for that, the bargain basement model, might pony up the extra 2,000 more and get another 20 miles of range and get a little bit of a nicer interior. And, so now it's almost like the $35,000 Model 3, while it's still out there, it's been made a little bit less attractive than it had been all along. So
I think
tainted a little.
to be honest with you, I think it's the no streaming music that's making it almost unmarketable. But I think they might have designed it that way because they're like, okay, here's a $35,000 version, but do you really want it? Here's just if you throw a couple extra thousand at us, we'll give you all these features that really you must have anyway. But hey, listen, they did it, right? Listen, it's 35, and it's about this $35,000 car. And let me know if you agree with this. Do you think that this is the best bang for the buck as far as electric cars are concerned, if we're just talking about the stripped down $35,000 version?
Yeah, I do. But it does go back to what you're looking for in a car. It's definitely the nicest looking, best performing $35,000 electric car. But, there might be people that want a new Leaf, the E Plus that find that car to suit their family needs better. So they both have about the same range. I think the new Leaf's going to have 226, I think, miles. So it's a couple miles more. And maybe people find that form factor a little bit better for their family. But for most people, the $35,000 Model 3 is really, it's a heck of a deal. But the a great, great, great deal in a great car. So I think that this is going to put some juice back into sales if they were starting to slack off at all. And I think it gives people a lot of reasons to put that money down now and go for it. So I'll be really interested to see how the first quarter sales finish up and how the March goes, because I think the website's been very busy today.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's talk about then first quarter sales really quick, because first of all, Elon said that they're probably not going to be profitable. Something that I thought would just not possible, no matter what, in the first quarter, was that gap between U.S. sales just tanking and getting all those cars to Europe and China to start being sold there. And now the stock is tanking. I think about 8 or 9% down now, because now analysts saying like, okay. I know we were complaining about where's the Model 3 at the $35,000 price point, but now that we see it here, well, obviously the profit margins are going to fall. So I'm not a big stock guy, but like, can Tesla ever win with these guys, the Wall Street investors, or are they being reasonable?
Well, I'm not a big stock guy either. I don't have any position in Tesla, and I don't really pay that much attention to it because, like you said, can they really win? You have a group of people that are rooting for the stock to go up, and you've got a lot of people rooting for it to go down. And sometimes you're not really 100% clear when you're talking to somebody what their real intentions are. So, the talk shows that morning talk shows that talk about investment and talk about Tesla, and every time Elon tweets, they're on there saying that we got to remove this guy or whatever. I think it's just to get ratings, just to get people to hear. They don't know what's best for Tesla. And sometimes I wonder if Elon knows what's best for Tesla, but I don't. That's all just noise. I'm more concerned about seeing so many dramatic changes at Tesla. That's the thing that worries me more than anything, is all this. Even with the Model S now, they dropped the price of the performance version and the long range version. They changed the name. They had just changed the name to extended range like a week or two ago, right? And now they changed it to long range. So it just seems like
they not only that. So they introduced the software limited version.
Yeah,
That's
gone now, right?
That's now gone, right? And then they now using the 100D version, and they lowered that price by 10 grand, which I think is going to make a lot of people really upset, especially the ones that bought the 100D for a few months ago even.
Yeah.
This is what I was afraid of. And maybe this is why they tucked that news into this chunk of bigger news. Because
Yeah.
I mean, imagine you just bought your 100D for 100 grand, and now it's at 90 grand. Not only you feel buyer's remorse, you literally just got your car devalued by an extra $10,000 by the very company who just sold it to you.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to in the beginning when I talked about it. I wish we could have just celebrated the Model 3 at $35,000 and just had a week of saying, isn't this wonderful? He did it. We brought it in. There's a $35,000 Model 3. But with so much of this noise, with the whole change in the offerings for the Model S and the price drop, and even all these new introductions for the Model 3, and the fact that the autopilot is different now, and the different features and different prices, and now they're going to close the company-owned stores. It just seems like that's not how you operate a company. You don't keep making changes by the week, big radical changes, not changing a color or offering a new wheel. These are really big changes that they just seem to not have a clear path, a clear direction. Like Like every week they just decide, okay, let's change the name, let's do this. And that can't be good for the company. It can't be good for the stability of the company.
Yeah, and that's where again it's just so weird, and like I don't understand why, like this is one of the greatest days in the history of electric cars, and yet we're talking about the chaos and changes and
Yeah.
confusions and screwing customers, all that stuff. Okay, well, let's talk about the other news that on any other day would be a breakthrough huge news, which is Tesla decided that they're no longer going to be doing showrooms. They're closing down most of their stores. Not all of them. I think they're going to keep a few of them in the high traffic areas. So I'm assuming like in major cities and biggest malls and stuff, so forth. But they've decided they're going to close most of them and sell everything online. Now, in fairness, that's how they've been doing it all along. When I bought my very first Model S in 2012, when I went to their showroom, when I actually put my deposit down, they guided me to the computer in the corner with internet connection. So they've been doing this all along. But now they're saying, listen, we're replacing this whole test drive thing where you can get the car, and if you don't want it after a week or 1,000 miles, you can return it. Now, obviously, we know that's not the same. You're purchasing the car, coming up with the money, and then you have to undo it, right? That's a little more work than you would do for a test drive, where it's like in between shopping on Sunday afternoon. But at the same time, and obviously, the people who buy these cars kind of already convinced, before they even get in there. Short term, it actually is not a bad idea, I think. But long term, they might have to put those back in there. What do you think about this? Great idea, bad idea, short term, long term? This is a huge topic on its own.
That's why what I'm saying, that it kind of really clouded the whole great news about the Model 3 being available for $35,000. I don't know what to make of it, to be honest with you. I know I got an email from Tesla. I live in New Jersey, and Tesla just is trying to open up more stores in New Jersey. They're only allowed to have 4 of their showrooms or company stores.
Right,
so
I remember
an email 2 days ago from like Tesla Legal that said, "Help us fight New Jersey. We want to increase to 10 Tesla locations." So, it's almost like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, because why would they be trying to apply for 6 more showrooms if they are going to stop doing them? So I'm really, really a little fuzzy on this. And I hope we get some more clarity on what their strategy is going to be moving forward, because, you said that people just buy a Tesla and they don't necessarily, they've already made their mind up. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think a lot of people feel that way, but a lot of people still want to go and take a look at and feel and touch and sit in a vehicle before they spend, 40, 50, 60, $100,000 on it.
Right.
So,
But I think what they rely on is people like me and many other Tesla owners who've already, the reason those people are buying one is because they've been into ours already or test drove, and we're like, so essentially they're saying, listen, our current customers are essentially our test drive marketing guys, so why bother having our own? And they're partially true.
Partially true, but with all due respect, there's not enough Tesla owners out there to show every potential buyer a car and let them drive in it and feel it and touch it. So, I know that helps, and that helps with all electric vehicles. Throughout the years that I've had my electric cars, I wish I kept count of how many that I sold from letting people drive my car or sit in it or just answer questions about it. But now that Tesla's really trying to move beyond early adopters and beyond the innovators to the early majority, that they can't rely on people driving around with the car. There needs to be some kind of a presence. I would imagine eventually Elon envisions being able to have a car drive autonomously to the customer. Maybe they would have a regional service center, and if I live 20 miles from that and I wanted a test drive, I would ask for it, and the car would probably drive to my house, and I could sit in it and drive in it. And but we're not there yet. So maybe he's planning for what he thinks is a not so distant future, or maybe they just fiscally needed to shut the stores down. Maybe they were just too big of a cash drain. But
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, it looks like
strategy.
it looks like that's exactly what it is. So let me just bring the slide in, and I have it here where they're essentially saying just that. So let me find the right one, and yeah. So here I'm going to bring it up on the full screen. So this is from their blog post about this, right?
Okay.
They're saying to achieve these prices, and they're talking about the the $35,000 price tag,
Yeah.
while remaining financially sustainable. Tesla is shifting sales worldwide to online only, and then they're saying essentially everything else that we now know. So they're pretty open about the fact that yeah, this is the way we're going to send save money. You know.
Yeah, well, you know, they have smarter people than me crunching the numbers and doing their books and telling them what is the best strategy to make. But, when you start to see companies start to constrict, start to close things down, it doesn't always indicate that things are going well. Take a look at the Solar City. They used to have a big sales force, right, that went out and tried to market the solar systems, and then when Tesla acquired them, they laid off a lot of the sales force, the majority of them, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it was majority of them. And then they partnered with Lowe's, and they had people at Lowe's, displaying the solar and trying to sell it, and then they kind of split from that. It just seems like there's no strategy. It's whatever they decide to do this month, they do, and that's troubling.
And the
I love
funny
their
thing
cars,
is,
but their strategy just seems like it's okay. Let's wake up today and let's decide to change the name of the car from extended range to long range, and let's the autopilot package. Let's just rework that and do it. It doesn't seem like there's a clear, concise strategy, and that's concerning.
yeah, and as a matter of fact, they're going to be rolling out the update that will make the 310-mile cars into 325-mile cars, and they're actually going to be relying on pushing the hardware a little bit further, which will probably add to the wear and tear, right? But as of right now, their extended range and their standard range have exactly the same mileage of 310 miles, which obviously adds to confusion. But let me bring something up that you just mentioned. Once they laying off a Solar City salespeople, I knew quite a few of them personally, and almost every single one of them either started their own company to compete with Solar City Tesla, or joined another company like Sunrun to compete with them. So essentially, by getting rid of the salespeople, they gave all of them to their competition. Wouldn't the same thing happen now, where all these people who were selling Teslas in these showrooms now will have need a job, and they'll go to Audi to sell their e-tron, to Mercedes to sell the EQC, to Nissan and Kia and so forth to sell the competitive cars. So isn't that kind of an issue that they're creating for themselves?
Probably not, because Tesla, their client advisors weren't really salespeople. They were anti-salespeople. They weren't just supposed to explain the car to them. They weren't making commissions. They weren't supposed to be high pressured. I don't know how well those people would adapt in the transition to the traditional dealership environment, where everything is focused on, get them in, hook them, get that prices, get as much as you can, and then move on to the next customer. It's a totally different environment. So, I'm not so sure that they would find a home in selling cars from a different brand. I would almost think those people would be more likely to go to an Apple store and sell Apple products than go to BMW dealership and try to sell 330i's or whatever. So but it's a loss. It's a loss not to have those stores out there. I live here in New Jersey, and every now and then I'd go to the Short Hills Mall where there was a store, and I've never been there where there wasn't somebody in there looking at Tesla, talking to the people that work there. And I can't imagine it didn't help sales. There's going to be some sort of a loss. Now, like I said, I'm sure the bean counters figured out that the money they lose in possible lost sales will be less than what it cost them to run these stores. But still, just the fact that they just keep switching their strategy is troubling.
All right. So, all right. So obviously all the switches and changes and stuff like that are, uh, annoying at the very least, and it does make it look like they had no strategy at all to start with, or change their minds too much. But now we're here. Okay, now they have the $35,000 Model 3 with all of the options all the way to whatever 70,000. They do have the Model S and Model X with the new pricing. We'll see what's going to happen with the range and stuff like that. They have most of their stuff relatively stable, I would say, or settled. If things were to stay pretty much the same as they are right now, and now you're buying stuff online, do you think this company is finally in a pretty good, stable shape, and can move forward with, strong sales numbers, profitability, introducing the new models like Model Y and a pickup truck and so forth? Or do you think this is going to be going on for a while, where they're still going to be figuring out what's going on and getting all this negative publicity and tripping over themselves?
Well, they just had all of these changes. If that happened 6 or 8 months ago, and the dust was settled, and sales in Europe have been continuously strong, and they're able to continue to make headway in China despite tariffs, then would be able to answer that question. We can't answer that question right now. They're still on, I wouldn't call it shaky ground, but the ground's not extremely stable as far as I'm concerned. They have great products. They've got a great vision. Hopefully the Model Y will be able to be introduced at some point soon and get that to market, because I think that's going to be a really big seller for them, possibly even better than the Model 3. But when we see all these changes and instability, it can't bode well for how the position that they're in right now. A lot of it also is going to depend on, I think it's really important, how the full self-driving rolls out. Elon's promised by the end of this year there's going to be some full self-driving capabilities released.
Well, so he said that they will have it done, and then after that it's going to be up to regulators, and I think that's where all the problems lies, right?
Yeah.
And at first, before regulators, they had Mobileye that was, definitely opposing to what they were pushing. Now, of course, there are regulators that didn't allow the full navigate on autopilot feature, right, where they had to roll it back, where you still have to confirm. So he's saying that, hey, we're going to be ready. And it's all in the hands of the regulators, but essentially regulators are looking out for us. And I really strongly doubt that all of these features are going to be approved, because think about it. I mean, to me, the easiest for the self-driving features is to navigate on the freeway, and they're still not there yet. Even with this feature they're rolling out right now, where you can summon your car from a parking spot to the front of the store that you're shopping at, if they can figure out 100% how to do this on the freeway, how are they going to navigate through the shopping carts and people with their kids and dogs and all kinds of weird parking spot structures and stuff like that? I know he said that. I just don't see that happening. Do you?
Yeah. Well, let's just make the statement. There is zero chance that Tesla or any other company will be 100% ready to launch a self-driving car in 2019 or 2020. It's just, we're just not there yet. I've talked to so many people from so many different companies that are working on this, and a lot of the experts don't even think we'll have a full self-driving car by 2025. So, to say that we'll have full self-driving by 2019, it's not right. It's misleading, and I hope that he's not doing it just to get people to pay that extra money for full self-driving feature that they may never actually get to use. So it's that's the concern is Elon promising these things so that more people check that box and then they actually never end up getting the technology that they paid for.
All right. Well, so my last question is actually let's come to full circle to the big announcement of the Model 3 being finally introduced at $35,000. How does and you mentioned talking about possibly about Polestar 2, which was aiming at Model 3. They were very open about it. So now that Model 3 $35,000 version is in the mix and available, how does it stack up against the competition that was kind of coming in? We can still talk about the Bolt, we can still talk about the Polestar, but of course, Kia, Niro EV and Hyundai Kona EV and Nissan Leaf, the second generation. How does it change the landscape of all of this new lower priced electric cars on the market right now are concerned?
Well, there were long range cars in that price range, 35,000. You had the Bolt. Now the Kona EV is available. The Niro EV is coming out. So we had some options in the $35,000 to $45,000 price range that could go 200 plus miles per charge, and the new Leaf. So it's not like this was it's the first 200-mile car that can go 200-mile range EV that costs 35,000. But what it does present is the first really nice, desirable sports sedan, high performance that you can buy at that price point. And there's a lot of people that want that kind of vehicle. Not everyone. There's a lot of people, like I mentioned earlier, that might think the Leaf now with over 200 miles of range is a better buy for them. There's still people that probably are going to be lining up for the Kona EV. You see the demand for that in California. We've got reports that some dealers are charging as much as $8,000 over the MSRP to get their hands on a Kona EV. Now, does that dealer gouging subside a little bit now that the Model 3 is available at 35,000? I bet it does a little bit, but there's still going to be a good demand for those vehicles. But all in all, not to sound too negative about Tesla, it's a great day that this car is finally available at $35,000. Congratulate Tesla. I think it's a fantastic milestone for the whole electric vehicle movement, the whole industry. But I just wish it wasn't shrouded in all these other things that happen simultaneously that you kind of have to just say, okay, what just happened here? Did he introduce the $35,000 Model 3 so people wouldn't focus on all these other changes and the stores closing and the different autopilot options and the fact that he's selling the same Model S now for 12,000 less than it was last week. So, it tarnished it a little bit, but it still can't, with all the negative, you can't overwhelm that this is a great day for electric vehicles. The Model 3 is a great car, and selling it at $35,000 is a great price.
Absolutely agree. All right. Well, I'm sure the next week will be just as interesting because I think people will be digesting, and I'm sure there will be a few more tweets about Elon. I think he's busy with his SpaceX launch today, so I kind of expect him to maybe tweet a little bit more about the Model 3 over the weekend and next week. So, all right. Well, thanks for once again showing up and giving a great perspective on this. I know we kind of were, not that we mind, but probably forced into this topic, which is perfectly fine. It's good with us, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next week and doing this again.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, you can check out my latest articles over at InsideEVs.com. I've got a couple articles coming out this week on BMW, one on Byton, and another one that I can't really talk about just yet until it gets released.
A cliffhanger. I like that. Well, you know me. I always read your articles, but having you here on my channel now weekly is definitely a huge perk. So I appreciate it. All right, man. Well, listen. Have a great weekend, and I will see you here next Friday.
Very good. You too, Alex. Take care.
All right, so it is a big of a chaos just to even talk about it, but definitely it's interesting to hear Tom make some of these comments about how, and I agree, how all of this odd weird news that got added to this amazing announcement kind of canceled it out almost. I still believe that this is a huge milestone, and I think that everybody should celebrate. But it is very odd to see what else was kind of changed, and some of it without really announcements. And I do wonder if they really don't really know what they're doing at this point. They haven't settled on their brand marketing strategy, on their sales strategy, or we'll see. I gotta tell you, I'm definitely optimistic. That's for sure. I'm definitely optimistic. So I want to see what happens. And by the way, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my newer Patreons, Eden McCarty. Thank you so much for joining my Patreon community, the only place where you can watch me live. And of course, thank you to all of my Patreons for supporting this and contributing to this independent YouTube channel. If you want to join, boom, go ahead and go to patreon.com/e4electric. That link is in the description of this video. So thank you you guys for supporting my channel. All right, looking forward to your comments. Let us know what do you guys think, and maybe suggest a topic for the next week's conversation. All right, see you guys next week, and remember to stay charged.